So after this shot, I'm probably like, it's the same exact thing as before. Like this is the exact same scenario where you take your first shot, which I think is totally fine, but you're out in the open after that shot. And I would like to see you reposition. So I don't really know how well this works as cover against a leader. I'm probably not very good at all. But I'd like to see you either go here or like go back to your zone and again potentially play around this pillar, just depending on where your team's positioned. But if you sit out in this open for like a second shot, we've seen 2 times in a row that it makes you very vulnerable. And any good a good leader is probably gonna snipe you there, but that range is tough. Yeah, the chase was a little bit hard. I like the initial shot. Squiffy, okay. Okay, we're playing zones Mahi, so actually kind of based. I think both teams do a good job between the Chargers and the Blaster. I think both teams actually do a good job of like dealing with ledges. And if you lose control, just pushing in without a plan is going to be very dangerous. If you need context, it should be top 500 X rank. I didn't really have a lot of replays. I definitely died the leader more than I should have. Gotcha. Yeah, and this makes sense because this is a relatively slow game where both teams are like looking for opportunities to get picks. So I'm gonna guess it's probably something with the positioning. Work on entry better. I see. Alright, also quick build. The first thing I'll say is that you don't want to be too bunched up with your teammates. Obviously at the very beginning of the match, like everyone can kind of take the same path so you can get to where you want to go faster. But you want to start looking to take different positions because I think, and this is the problem with like your comp is that, and it's solo queue, so like adapting is going to be tougher than in other games. If you have multiple people sitting like on top of the snipe area or sitting around the same ledge, they're going to get a ton of value. Playing around this left side gives you a little bit more space and more room to maneuver. The other thing is that if the situation gets bad, you have the ability to retreat back here so your team doesn't get fully wiped. I wouldn't position right side with the rest of your team because again, as we mentioned, I don't think you have enough control to be able to start playing on this right side. As you're building, starting on the left is generally going to be safer because there's more cover. You have the ability to retreat. You can use this pillar. Like a lot of times the enemy team is going to take this pillar, like the pillar farthest. So if you want to play left, I would do that. If you're over here, you can potentially look to play around this pillar. You can play around people in mid. But I think as a Swiffer, you probably want to use this left side more often on average. Unless you have a team that's like all like splashes and short range shooters and stuff, then you can probably be the one that's like kind of looking to position around your snipe area. Nice. Yeah, because right now you're using this as cover and then the blaster moves forward and then 3 of y'all are in trouble again. Nice shot. Yeah, and now it's trying, and I think this is like where you're starting to have questions of like, where should I position myself? When you're positioning here, you do have to be careful about Chargers sitting on this like perch because they, you know, just you have to be mindful of it. And if you see them there, you have to position yourself around this pillar to like cut off that angle basically. But this positioning is totally fine. I think even in this situation, it's totally fine. I'd probably, I think you used a sensor, but yeah, sensors are good here. Perfect. Yeah, and now your team's position, like, I think now your team is actually like adapting. Like, oh, Squiffer's got this right side, so they're gonna move left, which is good. Like, you know, the Charger's totally fine here. So like this is, oops, this is good for your team. Honestly, in a spot like this person moves up. I think going for the shot initially is good. But if you're looking at what your teammates are probably going to do in these types of scenarios, you're all probably focused on this type of area. And because your teammates are holding this left side, I kind of like the angle that they get over here. So the first shot that you do because you see them with the sensor, I think that's totally fine. But once that misses, I wouldn't keep like, because you have to hit a shot on a tough angle through the wave breaker. And like these shots are very low percentage. So I would either back up completely and play a little bit safer, or at least get better vision on what's happening on the right side. Because there's probably people that are like dropping through. Because if you watch this side, you can see people that are coming in and you can get really nice shots if you're already like charged up. So the positioning is good, but because you don't have any paint, being in the spot's a little bit scary. So you can always retreat back to here. Identifying that you're the only person on the right side and that you're responsible for anyone that's dropping out on the right side is something to keep in mind in these types of scenarios. Because once they get through, your team's done. Like y'all are really good with ledges, but once they break through, like both comps are kind of done. This is a little bit scary without paint, but I can like you're positioning so that you can back out whenever you need. Nice shot. So yeah, I think that's fine. The initial drop was a little bit scary because I don't think we had full presence of where everyone was, but I like that you positioned around the block so that at any point you can jump out. Yeah, this angle is like perfect. Like you can like sit here. I mean, you can sit back here as well. But you know, sitting here and watching this is good. I like the positioning. Oof. That leader just kind of forgot about you. But that play was good. Like getting the initial pick was good, and then you took a risky fight after, but I'm okay for you going for it. Sometimes like it's like risk and reward, and if you just jump out immediately, you can retake with the bubble, but the bubble isn't that great for retaking. It was initially a 1v4 and then you got it down to a 1v3. If you get it down to a 1v2 against this comp, especially with your special, but even without special, I think it's worth that risk. But jumping out is another option, but I like the way you played that. Yeah. You could have potentially jumped to the left side, but it's definitely scary. So I saw the hesitation because you're trying to figure out if you should jump or not. I actually don't know the answer. I would have been tempted to jump, but yeah, I don't know. But I feel you. And these types of situations, like your team gets the initial pick and then one of your teammates goes down. And like now you're like, oh, this could be a good spot. I'm ready to push in. Once this person gets sniped and it's you in the reflux, I probably would be more tempted to position on the left side. Like you can position yourself probably around this area and around this area so that you can keep the enemy team honest. Like a lot of times you've seen this crossfire because a lot of times, especially Blaster is going to want to sit in these types of spots. So dropping right is very scary. In their scenario, they probably should be playing behind cover and waiting for you all to come back in. They got picked because they got a little bit greedy, but you're unable to assist there. But yeah, dropping right is I don't like my chances playing with a reflux against a leader and then the rest of their team coming in faster than your team. In these types of spots, like you really need a special for like a consistent retake. I think going for the plays you're going for is fine, but it's like it's really important for your reflex to get missiles in these types of spots. But you're fighting for space that I think it's fair to fight for. So I don't think you're playing wrong, but it's hard because your team needs a special to go in. But you do have a wave breaker. Someone's finally able to get a special, so I would play it a little bit not slower. I think your positioning is totally fine here, but see if we can cook up some value with the wave break. But again, you've done a really good job of identifying that their team wants to use this slick area, which is very common on this map. And I think your positioning is good for it. Unfortunately, you don't get the pick, but you see this person marked. I like this first shot is great. I love this. After this shot, I would not sit out in the open. But in this type of spot, when you get this pick, and you know leader's still in this type of spot, even if you can trade here, like you need to reposition immediately. Either you go back to here, or if you want to take a more aggressive angle, like you're more than happy to play around this pillar. Panic for zone. I think, yeah, I can understand that, but like the pick that you got is like enough. It's not your responsibility to take zone at this point. It's your responsibility is to make it so your teammates can actually like push forward when they're coming back in. I don't know how close you are to your special at this point, but you know, having another special would definitely help. Like it's a good shot, but you're basically guaranteeing a trade, which your team should be able to retake. But if this leader's playing a little bit better, I think after you get the initial pick on the their Squiffer, they're probably like they should probably splat you if you're sitting out in the open like this before you get this shot on the dapples. So after this shot, I'm probably like it's the same exact thing as before. Like this is the exact same scenario where you take your first shot, which I think is totally fine, but you're out in the open after that shot. And I would like to see you reposition. So I don't really know how well this works as cover against a leader. I'm probably not very good at all. But I'd like to see you either go here or like go back to your zone and again potentially play around this pillar, just depending on where your team's positioned. But if you sit out in this open for like a second shot, we've seen 2 times in a row that it makes you very vulnerable. And any good like a good leader is probably gonna snipe you there, but that range is tough. Yeah, the chase was a little bit hard. I like the initial shot though. I think the initial shot's fine. Yeah. Like there was no punishment there, but if they had leaders situated over here, or even if they were situated in the spot over here, after that first shot, you're potentially donezo. I like that you repositioned after, but I think you should probably do it like after one shot, unless you know the coast is clear. That was left peek, which is tough, but that was a good timing poking out. This is really good. Whew. I don't know why leader's all the way over there. That's crazy. They forgot what weapon they're playing. Oh. Nice. Really good job spacing in this entire area. Like, I like that you constantly kept repositioning backwards and put yourself in a spot where you can help against the dapples, but the dapples can't get like a 2-for-1. I love going for this initial play, especially since you have information and like your camera, like the angle is like perfect. Like you have your target ready to go. Unfortunate, I'm okay with this spot after. After the shot, I'm probably looking to reposition, which truthfully, even if you escape here, you're probably getting splatted, but so I can understand kind of you're in a desperate spot, so you go for the desperate play. I think usually get that first pick and first opportunity, and then like look to reposition. But I think going for the play that you went for, you're probably going to go down because of the way the blaster was pushing. Sheesh. Oh yeah. Again, super minor, but your positioning is very prone to getting leadered. Like you should, like this pick's perfect. Yo, what's up, Celeste? This is fine. This shot and drop after, you should die. Always. This leader should always splat you on this spot. But I do like you repositioning after, but you have to be very careful. I think you're gonna get punished very often by a lot of like, as you continue to rank up and play against better opponents, you're gonna get exposed in a lot of those areas. A really, really good Squiffer play. Like I love the aggression. Adapt. Over time I'll get better at drawing or writing with my mouse, I promise. Adapt your position. You know, part of this is gonna be map knowledge. Because I think you're comfortable with like power positions on this map and like the default comfort positions, but I think there's more creative ways that you can play that you weren't necessarily taking as much advantage of. Bunching equals liability depending on the comp. And I think when you're actually taking fights, you did a good job not to bunch up with your team, but sometimes like, you know, getting to mid at the beginning of the match is a good example. There's a lot of spots where it's easy to autopilot and you're just going to like those default spots that you'd probably normally sit in, which like you probably take this spot with Squiffer a lot. And if you notice like 3 people over here and you're playing against a blaster and you know, another charger, it's potentially scary. So you'd want to route yourself a little bit different and you know, look to play around this piece of cover, potentially look to play around this if you're getting heavily pushed. And you know, you can use this area to keep your players safe. Move and reposition. After shots. Just after shooting. And this is something that you put yourself into a lot of scary situations. I'm totally fine with you popping out. Like, even when you pop out like this, you are at risk from the leader, but I'm okay with that initial like pop out. But you have to know whether I hit this shot or not, I need to reposition immediately. I think your movement and repositioning is fine when you're under an active threat. Maybe this proactive movement for a whole rotation keeps you alive and reduces your deaths to 2 or 3. But like that matters. This is huge. Sully 23. Yeah, Sully popped off this game. This was a really fun game to watch. I don't see a lot of really good Squiffers. I think Sully Squiffer is actually super, super solid.